Tonight on Town Meeting, from the Tulalip Reservation in Marysville. Bets are being made on whether or not Washington State will soon have casino gambling. What's your wager? 8 local Indian tribes plan to open casinos on their reservations. Will that be allowed? Legislators want to abolish all casino gambling in the state, including Reno nights for nonprofit groups. Will they get their wish? Next on Town Meeting, meet people who fear casino gambling leads to organized crime, and those who say denying gambling on the reservations is racist. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of Town Meeting, Ken Schramm.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to Town Meeting. You know, who's doing ooh, 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 ooh? Marysville, which by the way, Marysville is celebrating its 100th anniversary, is just a stone's throw from here. Here being the Tulalip Indian Reservation's Bingo Hall. This is a pretty quiet area of Snohomish County, and the Tulalips have helped to forge a very good relationship with the surrounding communities. But there are some people who say that relationship is in jeopardy. Some people who say that if gambling, big-time casino-type gambling, is allowed on the Tulalip Indian Reservation, it's going to be nothing but trouble and grief. The state legislature is wrestling with this issue right now. If state lawmakers decide to pull the plug on casino-style gambling on Indian reservations, it means that lawmakers must also pull the plug on Reno nights as charitable fundraisers, because if state law allows Reno nights, it opens the door for Indian reservations all across the state to have Reno nights every night, every day, all year long, which is probably appealing to Wayne Williams. Wayne has been, you're the manager of the Bingo Hall here, has been for the past 8 years. Please join me in welcoming Wayne Williams. When we say casino-style gambling, do you anticipate employment, revenue, excitement, all of the above? I mean, what does casino-style gambling mean in respect to what we're talking about?
Well, casino-style gambling, in our view, is the kind of gambling or gaming, I think, that the pop term is used throughout the United States by people who are promoting gambling. It's called not gambling, it's gaming. And what we see are the kinds of activities that presently is allowed in the state of Washington in the form of casino-style gambling in Reno nights.
But I mean, do you see this as a boon for the Tulalip tribe? Does it mean
absolutely.
Jobs and
Right.
a good deal of revenue? And
yes.
So it'd be a blessing.
Yes, it would be.
Well, when we're talking casino-style gambling, give me some examples. We're talking what? Blackjack, roulette?
Roulette, craps, yeah. Those 3 main games and a few others perhaps. But
Poker?
I think we'll probably have poker.
Slot machines?
No.
Why not slot machines?
It's not legal in this state. And at least that's our reading of the law. And as long as it's not legal in the state, we can't do it.
Okay. So would there be limits on the amount of bets?
Well, our present negotiations with the state representatives would be placing limits on the amount that would be bet, the number of gaming tables, and also the number of hours that we would be open.
So what hours, for example, would you anticipate being
Well,
open?
we're thinking of nothing over 80 hours in a week.
Which means, can you kind of like 9 in the morning till 10 in the morning?
Well, we're looking, that breaks out to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 11 hours a day.
Okay.
So we think it's very modest.
What would the limits be? 10, 25, 100?
We're looking at $10 to $25. $25 being tops.
So would this be now with the same gambling rules and stuff apply here as you would define in, say, Las Vegas? Blackjack, 21, right. Dealer stays on 17, hits on 16, and all that other?
Yeah. Those are details that we haven't finalized, but our general thought is that because Reno is the closest, gambling, casino-style gambling, that most of our players probably would be most familiar with Northern Nevada rules. So that's probably the kind of rules we'd be using.
Who do you think you would draw? Who do you anticipate would come to the Tulalip Reservation to participate in this?
We think that the majority of the folks would be from the Seattle area north.
You like the idea?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What do you think of the legislature's efforts to kind of...
Well, we're not very pleased with that. We feel that it's obviously bad faith. The act has been in place for 2.5 years, and they didn't do anything about it until now. And because the tribes are coming forward with the proposal to do casino-style gambling, the legislature is concerned.
Okay. What do you like the idea of gambling?
Well, yes, I'm actually visiting here from British Columbia, and I'd like to tell you that British Columbia has 18 casinos already. They're modeled very similar to what the gentleman was talking about, and I guess some of the success is that most of you don't know how close 18 casinos are.
Are you a gambler?
Not really, but what we do in British Columbia is last year we serviced over 3,000 charities, and we assisted them in raising $30 million that went back to charity, and over 1,000 people are employed in British Columbia.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think this would be competition for Vancouver?
No, we don't, because we know that our average player lives within 5 miles. He treats his casino in a community way, and he spends approximately $29 when he visits the casino, and he considers it as an alternate entertainment form like you and I might treat our rackets club or our golf evening.
Let's see if we could get some... let's translate that $29. What would you hope would be a good day? If you got X amount of people in here in the course of a day, what would you say would be a success then?
Well, we haven't really done any kind of market analysis of what the average would be. I can only tell you what our bingo players spend, and this is very comparable to what the nonprofits will spend, and that's about $32 a day.
So you're higher than... You'd be disappointed then if they only spent $29 a day, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I believe this gambling will help our Indian people because it helps employment. All the government been not funding us, and it helps my people. We've been down, fishing is down, logging, and we're looking for jobs. There is no other place to turn but look for the other people.
What about the argument there are people who say, you know, you bring this type of thing in and it's going to create, there's going to be crime, and there's going to be prostitution, and there's going to be drugs, and there's going to be these unsavory characters hanging around?
I believe they already got that in the United States, you know.
I don't know if you can top that, but let me ask you if you find any validity to those arguments as they're presented.
No, this argument about all of the unsavory characters, organized crime, all of the ancillary evils that would be attendant with so-called high-stakes Indian bingo. I was just looking at some testimony given by Mark Richards, who's with the Department of Justice, testifying before Congress. And he's saying all of these things are going to happen. The following year, when he was challenged, the Department of Justice was challenged, produce some prosecutions, arrests, and prosecutions of organized crime infiltrating Indian bingo games. So their testimony changed to that it's not going to happen, it might happen.
Let me ask you this then, Wayne. Do you see nothing but good coming from this? You see no downside to it at all?
I see the possibility of downside with people becoming far too serious in gambling. That's a possibility, because gambling can become addictive, it can become a problem. And we're concerned about that. We're concerned about that here at Tulalip Bingo. And we are taking steps. We've disinvited a couple of our players here who we felt were becoming far too serious. And we are developing a policy now that basically says that problem gambling is an illness and it's treatable. And if we find that we've run into some people here that are patronizing us, we're going to ask them not to come. And let me just finish off by saying, while this may not solve that person's problem, at least we are going to be able to say that Tulalip Bingo or our Tulalip Casino is not going to profit on the illness of a person.
And when you say, when people talk about casino gambling, one of the things that they immediately envision is a 42-story Harrah's with Don Rickles' name out on the marquee outside there. Is that what we might anticipate for the Tulalip Indian tribe?
We don't visualize that at all because, for one thing, we are presently negotiating for limits that are, I think, very low, very comparable to what you would expect to find in Reno nights. Those are $10 and $25 limits. Okay. So that we're looking at 22 stations, and we're looking at restricted hours. When you look at a casino...
So this isn't a grand scale operation?
No. This is not what's called wide open gambling or full-blown casinos. Okay. We are not going to have slot machines. I wish we could. There was a bill that apparently died in the legislature. When you talk about casinos, you're talking about slot machines that account for probably up to 60% or more of the Nevada casino's revenue. And that's not going to happen here.
Wayne may not have any anticipated problems with crime, and the gentleman back there obviously does not. But when we come back, we're going to talk with a prosecuting attorney who believes that bring casino-style gambling to Indian reservations, and you're looking at increasing the crime rate by 50%. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about more when we come back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Town Meeting. Remind you that we are at the Tulalip Indian Reservation's Bingo Hall. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know why there's only a $25 betting fee in the casino.
Wayne?
Well, we have retained a consultant from the state of Nevada, former manager of a casino there, and we were thinking of higher limits, but he recommended lower limits. But in the course of our negotiations with the State Gambling Commission representatives, they wanted the lower limits as a basis to allay the concerns about big money, wide open casino type gambling.
So that's the reason for a cap.
This is what's available. The $10 is what you can find in Reno nights, basically, and $25 is really not that much greater.
Let's recognize that this issue that we're talking about here this evening, casino-style gambling, is a political hot potato, which may help to explain why all of the elected officials that we talk to in the State Senate and in the State House of Representatives, including Jeanette Hayner and Art Wang, we asked those people to be here. We asked a lot of people to be here, and it seems that their calendar was otherwise filled for the evening. Which makes Senator Gary Nelson's appearance here tonight even more appreciated. Please join me in welcoming Senator Gary Nelson. So you came down here to get beat up.
I didn't have anything on my calendar, that's
What your thoughts on the casino gambling issue? You don't believe that it should be allowed on the Indian reservations?
I don't believe it should be allowed beyond what we've already permitted in state statute. When most of the legislature in the state of Washington permitted the charitable groups, the nonprofit entities in the state to be involved in the limited amount of gambling to the extent that it would raise $10,000 net for charitable purposes, I thought that was probably a fair approach, and most of the legislature felt that way. Now we're seeing a very significant increase in the desirability of more casino-type gambling, which...
It's odd that you would use the word desirability. If people desire casino-style gambling, why not allow them to have it?
Well, I think that the entire legislature is a microcosm of the people of the state, and I believe right now that the policy is such that the limited gambling opportunity is the best for the state overall. One must look at what happens, and I believe Mr. Williams pointed out that gambling can be very addictive, and it can take a lot of disposable income from individuals, and then those individuals and their families are definitely hurt.
Let me introduce Jeff Sullivan, who's the Yakima, I'll get to you in a sec, Yakima County prosecuting attorney. You feel that criminal elements, criminal activities, that gambling is kind of a magnet for that, do you not?
Correct.
What do you base that on, and what are your concerns regarding that?
Well, I think myself and the prosecutors of the state of Washington have consistently opposed casino-type gambling in every form. We have, I guess, it's our impression, both in talking to the prosecutors from the state of Nevada. Most recently, I had an occasion at a national meeting to be with the prosecuting attorney of the county in which Deadwood, South Dakota is located, which recently, that city recently legalized casino-type gambling for the very purposes that the Tulips are talking about, to revitalize their economy as an economic development tool. He indicated to me that their crime increased 69% in the first year of the casino-style operation in that city. I think that it's been proven that where there's large sums of money, that you are going to see prostitution, you are going to see drug offenses, and you become a magnet for those kinds of criminal activity. And so I would say, and I guess one other small point is that if in the front page of the Seattle Times this afternoon, state of Nevada, one of the smallest states population-wise in the nation, has the 9th highest violent crime rate of any state in the nation on a number of crimes per 100,000. Washington is actually ahead of them, so it seems to me that we're actually asking for more trouble.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Mr. Nelson, you know, the federal government gave us this thing in 1988 to go after gaming and start negotiating with the state. Why does the state of Washington wait so long while we're in negotiations right now with the deputy director of gaming? Why did you wait till this point in time to go out and after Reno night?
The chief executive, of course, the governor of the state of Washington, appoints the Gambling Commission, and they're the ones that should have begun earlier. And I agree with the concern that this issue should have been negotiated far earlier and not waited to the last minute. I think most legislators felt that when Public Law 100-497 was being passed by our Congress, that as a family within this entire state, we would effectively allow the same kinds of gambling operations on the reservations as exist off the reservations. The limited amount of betting, the tribal members would be the only employees on the reservation to run the limited amount of gambling, and that the proceeds, the net proceeds, would go for the charitable desires of the tribe. I think it comes as quite a surprise to now see a deviation in the concept that I believe was honestly brought to the Congress, to now see a wide open gambling beyond what the state has already had in its statutes.
I guess we're fortunate in that we have someone here that we can talk to about the impacts of all of this instead of talking theoretically. Buzz Gutierrez, am I pronouncing that right? Gutierrez. Gutierrez? Right. Apologize. Buzz Gutierrez operates a casino over in eastern Washington in Spokane County.
No, Stevens County.
Stevens County. Close enough. Everything over east of the mountains is close enough.
45 miles north of the city of Spokane.
You were grandfathered in under this 1988 statute that the gentleman talked about, were you not? All right, what's been your experiences in respect to operating, and you've done this for the past?
5 years.
5 years?
Yes.
Successfully?
Successfully.
Crime. The prosecutor says crime is going to increase dramatically if we have casinos.
I have had no infiltration of any kind of organized crime. I've had no infiltration of any kind of local hoodlums or the gentleman with the supposedly crooked noses, what have you. I have had 2 incidences in 5 years. One was a domestic incident with a man and wife, and the other incident was a gentleman who came in, was quite inebriated, and I asked him to leave. That's the only incidents I've had in 5 years.
Who are most of your customers? Who would you categorize?
My customers come, venture to say within 150, 200-mile radius of the casino.
So they're from Spokane, they're from...
Idaho, Central Washington, Canada.
And what kind of games do you run?
We run every game that is available in the state of Nevada. We have that ability to offer those games.
Blackjack, poker, roulette, craps.
Mm-hmm.
You make good money?
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's not that, if you have the ability to attract the vast amounts of people, then your what they call a hold would increase. But when you're dealing with the small populace that I'm dealing with, the attraction is just, it's as a lady from Canada expressed earlier, it is a alternative form of entertainment.
I just wanted to say to you, I agree with you. I dealt cards, blackjack in Oregon for 5 years, and I never once had any problems with organized crime or any corrupt people, and I supported 3 kids off of this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We do have with us Bill Thompson, who is a gambling expert from where else? Nevada. In fact, you are a professor with...
University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Okay.
Running Rebels, right?
All right.
All right.
Give me your sense of what you've heard so far, and give us a perspective as to how you think it would apply to the Tulalip Indian Reservation in particular.
We have a vast issue here. The federal government, Congress passed a law in 1988, said if there was Class 3 casino gaming in any form for any purpose allowed in a state, then Indian tribes could negotiate with the state government to have casino games on reservations. Now, in the negotiation, it was a balance between the state interests and Indian tribe interests. And I think, as I read the act, that the state interest is that the gaming be crime-free, that it be honest, that it not destroy the morals of the community by enticing compulsive gamblers to come into the casinos.
Bill, let me interrupt and ask, yes. Let's cut to the quick. Can casinos be operated on the basis that you just described?
We can have honest casinos. Crime's not a problem in casinos across Europe. There are 300 casinos. Deadwood, South Dakota has crime problems because there is no control in Deadwood, South Dakota. If Deadwood, South Dakota introduced controls over their gaming, they would not have crime. Their limits are $5 also.
I just agree with the gentleman that just spoke up there that, if proper preparation is taken and control is taken, then there's not going to be the crime problem. And I'd also like to say that I'm really sick and tired of legislative people controlling adults making their own decisions. I mean, I'm really sick of it. I think it stinks. I think it stinks that you guys make adults wear seatbelts. I think you try to control us. People like to have recreation, and we are adults. And what we decide that we want to do, we should have that right. You serve us. You don't control us. And it just really makes me mad.
Senator?
The legislature is made up of 147 men and women who come from all walks of life and who try to represent to the best of their abilities the people within their legislative districts. I have lived most of my life in Snohomish County, and I don't know that I have ever deviated from the feeling that the people within the Snohomish County area have had on an issue. And certainly there's going to be differences among those people in general, but I would submit that I think the vast majority of people in Snohomish County, where I've lived most of my life, would be opposed to an open casino-type gambling operation in this county.
Okay,
I might point out that my philosophy on this is I do not personally feel that I want to have in the community that I've raised my children and had my livelihood turn into another Atlantic city of the West, nor do I think we need to have a sacred cow attitude relative to where we effectively can have a casino in violation of what I think the interpretation of the federal law is.
Let me ask the sheriff if I can get you to stand. We'll talk real quickly here with the sheriff of Snohomish County, Jim Scharf. You've heard there's going to be crime, there's going to be problems, there's going to be trouble. Your thoughts from a law enforcement perspective?
Well, first of all, Ken, we have to go to the history of the cooperation of the Tulalip Tribe and the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, which has been tremendous at best. In respect to the compact that the Tulalip's have already entertained with the state, they have dealt with in a very professional manner. We have a guarantee that they're going to work with the state for background checks on the people they're going to hire and employ here, which is perfectly fine with us. And as well, they're going to work with us in establishing the gaming here and working to control crime.
So you're not worried about it?
It's not that we're not worried about it. It's the fact that the Tulalip's are going to cooperate. We have to deal with reality. The federal government passed a law. Now we're probably going to have it. Let's deal with it and deal with it realistically to benefit everybody.
When we come back, we mentioned earlier that for the legislature to pull the plug on this, they also have to pull the plug on the Reno nights for charities. No small feat in and of itself. We will talk about that aspect of this issue when we come back. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to Town Meeting. Again, we're at the Tulalip Indian Reservation's Bingo Hall, and we're talking about casino-style gambling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know, to the tune of $850 million the state of Washington made last year in gambling, why the state does not want Indian gambling so that they can allow that type of money to be made on the reservations all up and down the state of Washington.
It's not like you guys aren't in the gambling business, Gary.
Yeah, that's right, Ken. To be honest with you, the first time around, I never voted for the state lottery. And I didn't believe it was a good thing for the state to get into then, and I made forecasts as to what I thought we'd be into now. And sure enough, we're there. And we've always been into the pari-mutuel horse operation.
Would you outlaw that as well?
I don't believe that we would, in that we do have the proceeds, a great amount of the proceeds, going right back to the individuals who are participating. And that's the same situation.
So it's not that you disagree with gambling necessarily. You disagree with certain forms of gambling.
That is correct.
You know, because there's an old Las Vegas saying that gambling's only a sin if you're losing.
That's true. Some have said the only thing good to come out of Las Vegas is the running rebels.
Jeff?
The other issue in that respect is, though, that the state of Washington did not make 1 cent except a small licensing fee off of casino gambling. They didn't make $800 million in casino gambling. They didn't make any money on casino gambling. Casino gambling went back to the charitable organizations that put it on. That's where the money went, not to the state of Washington.
Hold on. Let's not get into a one-on-one exchange. Hold on a sec. And I promise to get back to you. But since you brought up the charitable organizations, let's talk to an individual who's deeply involved with that. Let me get you to Stan Lynn. What do you think of the state's efforts to get at stopping casino gambling on the Indian reservations by stopping the Reno nights that charities use to raise money?
Well, our feeling is it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and probably neither the baby nor the bathwater needs to be thrown out in this particular case. The Senate Bill 5940, if passed, would eliminate, $1.5 million or so per year that's raised by charitable organizations. That goes right back into charitable activities in the community. It also, contrary to what the prosecutor said, it returns several $100,000 to local and county governments and local option taxes too. So there is some loss to the public sector. It also tosses out money made from the social aspects of this, the food and beverage sales during these casino night activities. So we feel very strongly. We represent, probably 350,000 members and close to 1 million people in the state of Washington who are actively involved in private clubs, that this is going to have a pretty significant effect on.
So you say to the legislature,
vote no on 5940 is what I would say.
Yeah. On the revenue part of the casino, it will be good both for the state as well as the county, the whole county and the cities around us. But what I'm concerned about is the implication about crime. It's to imply that the Native Americans are going to become gangsters. But we work along with the sheriff, we work along with the FBI, we work along with the county people and the city people, and we also have our way of weeding these things out.
Let's get to that, because this is the first acknowledgement that at least there is a feeling that there are racial overtones to what the legislature is attempting to do.
Ken, if I could address that, please, the issue of regulation and what have you with the Indian gaming. As a gentleman and the expert from Las Vegas, Nevada, has stated that with proper controls, proper regulation, and proper enforcement of those controls and regulation, that the crime element is almost kept out of it completely. I've been involved in this Indian gaming issue since 1980 and traveled this country across and met with many and almost all the Indian tribes that are involved in gaming. There has not been one tribe that does not believe that we need a strict regulation process and a scheme and a process to weed out the undesirables.
All right, Buzz, let me ask you, though, do you think there are racial elements to the legislature's efforts in this respect?
There seems to be racial tones, but what I believe that is the problem with the legislation that's before the legislation is they do not understand the fact that Indian tribes are native sovereign governments with the same ability as the state. Our authority is vested in us by our inherent right as the natives of this country.
Okay, but with
the only one
with the same
who has
authority
the plenary
comes
power.
But Buzz, with the same authority, it could be argued you have the same obligations.
We have those obligations. As Senator Evans, while he was in the promulgation of this bill of S55, Public Law 100, 497, I believe is the correct numbers. During the promulgation of this law, Senator Evans of this state, he stated that for 15 years, Indian tribes have been involved in Indian gaming, and not one proven case of organized crime or a person that was undesirable had ever entered. So that proved to him that Indian governments have the ability to regulate gaming activities within their jurisdiction and regulate it properly.
It seems to me that what we're dealing with here is freedom of choice. Freedom of choice unfettered by unwarranted governmental intrusion is the constitutional right of us all. And the prohibition of casino-style gambling as a form of free enterprise seems in itself to be unconstitutional.
All right. When we come back, you know, if the state does not pull the rug out from under this casino-style gambling on Indian reservations, at this time there are 8 different tribes that have plans to open up some form of casino-style gambling on their reservations. Where are they going to be? Let's talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Go ahead.
I was just wondering why they're all worried about the being a, what am I thinking of? Now I got scared. You're talking about it being, people getting addicted to gambling and it being so addictive and stuff. We're gambling every day. You gamble with your lotto, which we have, in the state of Washington, we have 3 games a day, or on Saturday we have 3 games a day. You got your daily game and stuff. If they're so worried about addiction, why does Washington even let us have the lotto system?
The lotto is a program that was adopted by this legislature in the same fashion as other states did, and it was intended to be a low-level gambling involvement where the proceeds would go primarily back to the players, which it does, and the remainder would in fact go to support the things that everybody in this audience, I'm sure, believes in, and that's the support of the schools of the state of Washington, the social and health services, and the other needs of our society. Now, if that's what the casino
people here, Gary, people are here saying they have the same needs. They have the same desire to raise money and become self-sufficient. And what's wrong with what they're planning then?
They should be the same way that everybody else is. We are one family of people in this state. We are not establishing, and what I would think is a real selfish motive is to now say we're going to do something different within one geographic area of the tribal lands that's different from the rest of the state. I would only like to, in my opinion, forecast what will happen if we allow that to occur. We will see the mad rush to Olympia to now establish a giant casino operation in the middle of the state of Washington. And now we've got one-upmanship type of activity occurring, and I just frankly don't believe that that's what the citizens of the state want.
Okay, I'd like to address this to the prosecutor. You know that NUCSEC also is trying to get a casino. We've been in the negotiation table now for almost 7 months. After we get through with that compact, we submit it to the Bureau for their approval. Goes to the National Indian Commission for their approval. I think that the tribes are more regulated than even the people that would open a casino down here in Marysville. I think we got a lot of protection. We don't want organized crime to come into our tribe when we're trying to use the money to support our members.
Where are the Nooksacs looking to open a casino?
In Denton, Washington, north of here, Bellingham.
Okay.
And I brought my chairman with me to let you know why we're trying to do this. Because we need this.
It seems that the concerns that are being generated here are based on your projected problems. Is there a real application that you can give us to legitimize the concerns that you've raised?
Ken, I'd like to address.
Well, let Jeff answer first.
I think that there potentially is. I think that, you know, again, we can look at the statistics and say, well, if it's not controlled, we won't have the crime problem. There are some very serious problems with respect to jurisdiction. Who has legal jurisdiction over crimes committed upon the trust land, upon Indian reservations, and who is going to do that? But most importantly, I think from a, from the compact standpoint, is that the State Gambling Commission is talking about enforcing this compact through the civil laws. And yet every tribe that I've talked to, when I say, are you going to waive sovereign immunity so that that compact or contract can be enforced in court, they say no. We're not going to waive sovereign immunity, and if the compact is violated, you can't take us to court. So it seems to me that there is a potential problem. No matter how many, the compact's only as good as its remedies. And everybody that I've talked to says that they're not going to allow that to be enforced in state court, or even in federal court. And if that's the case, then there's a problem in how you enforce these things. And I think in terms of racism, you actually, if you put the casinos initially and only allow them on Indian reservations, we're going to have a claim that that's unequal protection of the laws. Okay. And it should be someplace else.
Buzz, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that when we come back. And we will also talk about, in addition to enforcement and criminal activity, the point that was raised before, and that is one of compulsive gambling. What kind of services would be needed and should be set up to deal with that? I promise I'll get to you, Buzz, when we come back. Stay with us. We'll return. Welcome back. Buzz, I promised you the opportunity to respond. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to make clear what the gentleman from legislation stated about the hold of the state lottery system, that most of the money goes back to schools and what have you, or to the player, and then the rest of the money goes to the schools. The fact is that the state of Washington holds 55% of every dollar that you buy a lottery ticket. Now, I've been in the casino business for 5 years. My average is anywhere between 15 and 25%. I would say my baseline average is probably 18% hold at the very most if everything is working properly, that I don't have a big loss at a given night. So the casino gaming is not holding as much as the state lottery system tries to hold from the player. The casino operation is more fair to the player. That is why they survive. And one more issue is the fact of the prosecutor from Yakima states about jurisdiction. The act provides for a tribe, if that tribe chooses to take the state's regulatory scheme and adopt that. That has that opportunity. But also,
and that's been part of the negotiation.
But also, the act does specifically provide, if there is any problems and there needs to be a jurisdiction issue, it goes to the tribal court system, and if that court system is not satisfactory for the complaintee, it can then be appeal to the federal system. Those systems are in place right now, and those systems work.
I was born on the Rays. I have 3 Indian grandchildren from the Tulalip Tribes. A few years ago, my daughter, her husband had left her, and she struggled very hard. She sold Avon and has a disabled Tulalip Indian child. And her lease, she couldn't make her lease payments on her house. It was $98 a month. She just about was forced off the res. The Tulalip Tribes wanted to take that away from her. Her grandparents, both Indian and myself, we bailed her out so that the Tulalip Tribes didn't take her house away. She had it for about 10 years before that.
I need to know what this has to do with gambling.
Okay. What we have land leases. The tribes is bringing in good dollars on land leases. They were $100 a year when I lived here in the 50s. They're $2,000 or $3,000 now.
I still need to know what this has to do with gambling, please.
There's profits on the bingo parlor. There's profits on logging, profits on the casino gambling.
I need you to get, are you concerned as to where the money that the Tulalips make from, let's cut to the quick here. Wayne, where would the money that the Tulalips make from gambling, where would that go into social service programs such as what this gentleman was just describing? And
well, I can tell you what the bingo proceeds go for. That goes to the Tribal General Fund and represents approximately 46% of the tribe's budget. And out of that budget, because we are a government, part of the expense goes to the support of general government. Some of the social programs that are funded, for example, are drug and alcohol inpatient treatment. We've had a very successful program.
What we need to get here, because we're running short of time, and I'm concerned that we won't touch on some of the really important issues. Not that this isn't important, but I need to press here. You're saying that the need exists or exceeds the ability of the tribe to meet the needs that exist. The gambling would help narrow that gap considerably. All right.
Because there's never, ever enough money for any government to meet the needs of its citizens.
Compulsive gambling. How big an issue is it, and should we worry about it a lot?
It should be worried about, or it'll become a big issue, and it should be in the compact. You should have controls. For heaven's sakes, don't give credit to players. Don't cash checks. Put in a money machine. That money is money they have. Don't be giving them money they don't have. Don't get your players in debt.
Okay, and I would imagine, and we'll talk this about a little bit more, but I would imagine you've set up a system to deal with that.
Right. We would not allow credit.
All right, we'll pursue this when we come back. Stay with us.
Mr. Gutierrez, we heard the prosecutor from Yakima County tell us about the 69% raise back there in Deadwood, South Dakota.
Yes.
Have you noticed any rises in problems around your area?
None whatsoever. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I've had 2 incidents in 5 years. One was a domestic problem with a man and wife arguing, and one was a gentleman came in too inebriated to stay in the place. 2 out of 5 years, it's a long time to have no problems.
I'd like to make a quick point. In New Jersey last year, 5 out of 12 casinos made a profit. It's not manna from heaven. It's not guaranteed. Hard work. I believe that Tulalip Tribes could show the state of Washington, the federal government, that it can be done, and done good.
Thank you. I'd like to direct my question to a good senator here. I'm representing the taverns and cocktail lounges across the state, and we've existed in harmony with the Indians, competing with them already. We think it's working very, very well. The Gambling Commission, which is a model commission across the nation, other states are patterning their commissions after ours, have been bargaining in good faith with the Indians, using my money.
We're almost out here,
okay.
So I need you to...
Using the license fees they got from the gambling license people in the state of Washington. If you pull the rug out from under us and say there cannot be any more negotiations, can we have our fees back?
Good question. Fair enough question.
Let me respond, if I may.
I want to talk, because it's kind of rhetorical, so hold on a second, because I did want to, we're almost out of time. I wanted to give the president of the Tulalip tribe an opportunity to, the chairman, excuse me. I meant President Bush, or... the chairman of the tribe. Do you really think that this would be a benefit for your tribe and for the reservation and for the people here?
Well, I believe it'll create at least 100 jobs, and you can see these jobs are created by the bingo, you know, and besides the jobs, we not only have, like Wayne was saying, all the programs, the health programs that we carry, and I think we put in about at least $1 million something into our health program.
Do you think it'll work, and you think it'll work well?
And our elders complex, we were just building out here. You know, I just had to get there. I think it'll work, and I think it'll work well, and I feel like the sheriff over here says, Jim Sharp, we're working together. We're working together, and we're working with the sheriff, we'll work with the FBI, and it's not just Tulalip Tribes, it's out there, it's all of us. And
your best guess...
Yes, definitely.
And I'll start with the senator. Is the legislature going to be able to stop this? Real quickly.
My feeling, I voted against this bill, by the way, and it sounds something like a contrast, because I believe what Wayne Williams has done in representing the tribal's interest in good faith bargaining, you should be very proud of. The key is that the bargaining should continue. The legislature should not pull the rug out from underneath it, hurting the nonprofit entities and the bona fide charitable groups. We should wait till the negotiation is totally done and then sit down and make a decision. So I don't support the bill. I'm waiting under the good faith operation that Wayne Williams is now proceeding.
Jeff, you'd like to see it fail?
Yes.
Wayne, Buzz, you hope it goes.
No. The reason it goes, I mean, it's, as the gentleman earlier stated, the ball game has started. You cannot start a football game and one side leading at halftime, stop the game. The fact is that the Indian tribes have already started. The Spokane tribe in August, the bill was passed in August '88. Spokane tribe notified the governor's office September of '88. We have been in the process. So the game has already started. So
I've got it, because we're almost out of time. This matter is before the legislature right now. Let your legislator know one way or the other how you feel about it, and let the chips fall where they may. No pun intended. Please join me in thanking all of our guests this evening for having contributed here. A reminder about next week's town meeting. Following the investigative report on 2020 involving the orphans in Romania, there has been a huge surge in interest once again about adoptions. Unfortunately, there are a lot of homeless children right here in our area who have gone wanting, and we need to focus some attention on that. That is what our program is going to be about. Next week is adoptions. Please, please join us. Make town meeting a regular part of your Sundays. I want to thank you for having watched tonight. Take care. Have a good week.
Hi, I'm Dick Foley. Tomorrow on Northwest Afternoon, get an inside look at this year's Oscar nominees from the Northwest's own Real Sisters. Join us tomorrow at 3 on Northwest Afternoon.